Our brains are amazing machines, running so many processes all at once. If we think of our brains as computers, which of course they are, we know that if a computer is going to handle a huge amount of processing all at the same time, it has to be immensely efficient in how it functions, how it uses memory and energy and sheer processing power. The same applies to our brains. And one way our brains conserve energy and increase efficiency is by using shortcuts. Gregory Burns, the neuroscientist who authored the book Iconoclasts, describes that process as follows. When confronted with information streaming from the eyes, the brain will interpret this information in the quickest and most efficient way possible. It will draw on both past experience and any other source of information, such as what other people say, to make sense of what it is seeing. This happens all the time, and it works so well that we are hardly ever aware of the process. What eventually bubbles to the surface is an image in the mind's eye. We take for granted that those perceptions of the world are real, but they are really specters of our imagination, nothing more than biological and electrical rumblings that we believe to be real. Unfortunately, because these assumptions are shortcuts, they are often significantly incomplete. What we see on the outside of another person is their behaviors, the actions they are taking based on what they're experiencing in their brains. We cannot see into their brains to know what they are experiencing. We can only see their behaviors. And so, because of the shortcuts our brains make, we make the leap from what we see, their behaviors, to then invent our best guess at why they're acting that way. In other words, we make assumptions about what that other person is experiencing that would cause them to act in that way. And then, because that's how our brains work, we believe those shortcuts. If we're going to create a favorable environment for others to step into their potential, we need to see what's really going on versus what our brains have allowed us to shortcut. In the equation of meeting people where they are and then considering their potential, let's start with the first half of the equation, meeting people where they are. By listening more deeply and more compassionately, and most importantly, by understanding and being able to identify what we are hearing, we can stop reacting to what we see and start understanding that what we see is just an indicator of how people are experiencing life at that particular moment. Starting out, we know that people's behaviors are just the external manifestation of what they're experiencing on the inside. Interestingly, we pretty much all experience the same things on the inside, the same feelings, reactions, desires. We all feel sadness, loneliness, fear. We all feel joy, contentment, love. It's just what we do with those feelings, how we process and turn feelings into behaviors and actions and language. Those are different. Again, we're confronted with the shortcuts our brains take. While the logical way to respond to people is to take time to find out what they're feeling, what we do instead is react to their outward behaviors. And our reaction is 100% not about what they are experiencing in that moment, but about the story we are telling ourselves, the assumptions we're making, the shortcuts our brains are taking. So when we say, oh, he's such a jerk, or he's such a happy person, or whatever, those are our judgments. They're the story we are telling ourselves. Let me explain with a few examples. First, let's assume we're just meeting someone for the first time. Our first impressions are actually nothing more than the shortcut assumptions and associations our brains make. Once we have that impression, we then tell ourselves that same story over and over throughout the relationship. The brain's still taking that same shortcut it made when we first met. So if our first impression was, she's stuck up, we'll continue to think she is stuck up, sometimes long after we cognitively know that that's not true. At the other extreme, let's consider the opposite of someone we're just meeting. Let's consider someone we've known for a long time, perhaps a manager or a long-term colleague or a family member or friend. These people, they may show the exact same behaviors as the person who made the first impression, but we tell ourselves a very different story. That story may be, wow, he must be having a bad day. Or if we have more of a relationship, we might instead take things personally. Oh, he's mad at me. I messed up. Again, this is all the story we are telling ourselves, based entirely on the behaviors we're seeing. As consultants or coworkers or managers or board members or family members, none of this is helpful to catalyzing either the other person's potential or our own. All they are reflexes, our brain's shorthand based on the behavior cues we're seeing. So if our brains are going to create a shorthand anyway, let's help our brains be more accurate in what they may be perceiving. Let's have that shorthand remind us to consider, how are they experiencing life? What lens are they viewing the world through? What does life feel like for them?